I'm Jennifer, and I am an addict. I thank Freedom to Change to allow me to come up here and share my experience, strength, and hope. My clean date is April 10th, 2005. How I generally start when I speak is to talk to you about where I am presently, and then I kind of go into how I got to where I am presently. You know, today, I have a good life. I'm in love. I'm learning how to communicate better. My family trusts me today. They have some respect in me today and some faith. I have some wonderful friendships inside and outside of these programs that I didn't have when I was using. I have a good job. Today, I have courage to take action to change. And it's all because of this program. It's all because of Narcotics Anonymous. I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for this program. You know, there were times in my recovery I'm like, I don't need this. Well, I do need this. I will always need this in order to stay healthy. So that's where I am today. And so, you know, how did I get there? One thing that I'm going to do is I looked through a couple of inserts of Just for Today that were relevant to Courage to Change. And I'm going to read one insert right now and then talk a little bit about where I came from and how I found the courage to change. January 25th, Just for Today. An added gift. We see it happening among us every day. This miraculous turnabout is evidence of a spiritual awakening. We watch them walk into their first meeting defeated. Their spirits broken. Their suffering is obvious and their desire for help even more apparent. They collect a welcome chip and go back to their seats shaken by the effort. We see them again and they seem a little more comfortable. They found a sponsor and attending meetings every night. They still won't meet our glance, but they nod their heads in recognition as we share. We notice the spark of hope in their eyes, and they smile uncertainly when we encourage them to keep coming back. A few months later, they are standing straight. They learned how to make eye contact. They're working the steps with their sponsor and healing as a result. We listen to them sharing at meetings. We stack chairs with them afterward. A few years later, they're speaking at a convention workshop. They got a wonderful, humorous personality. They smile when they see us. They hug us, and they tell us they could never have done it without us. And they understand when we say, nor could we without you. Just for today, I will find joy in witnessing the recovery of another. So first and foremost, I want to thank everyone in these rooms, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be standing here clean today. I came through these rooms broken. It started at a very early age for me, not feeling as like other people or normal. I was abused when I was young for years. When my parents found out and took me to counseling, how can a little girl maturely, understand what happened to her? And I didn't, and I put masks on and I put a wall up, and I didn't want to be hurt. Everything stems from being hurt for me, and everything is fear-based for me. And so, I lived a double life growing up, and I was always trying to find things that made me feel better about me, that, something so I could love myself, so I would make good grades. I would try to do all those things, and nothing ever filled me. I remember the first time that I drank, I was probably about 11. My cousins got me drunk. I remember they got a picture of me with a bucket on my head, and I threw up, and I thought that was the greatest time ever. I mean, at that small of an age, I really, really liked it. In high school, I started doing drugs at a very early age. By the time I was 14, and I'd smoked cocaine. I've pretty much done every single drug there is. Now, I did live a double life. What is it, or who is it? You know who I'm talking about. Who is it? Thank you. That's the kind of life I lived. On the outside, I looked good. I, was popular in high school. I made good grades, but I was always doing drugs. I always had that other side of me, and I was always hurting myself. And, I didn't think I had a drug problem. In fact, my ex-husband, I felt sorry for him because he was an alcoholic. I didn't understand it because I could control my drug usage. What I know now is that I wasn't using drugs to the extent I was using other things. If I finish college with my, son, I'm successful. If I buy that house, I'm successful. If I get married, I'm successful. If I divorce that a-hole, I am successful, and I will find happiness. Nothing made me happy, and that's when drugs really started becoming a major factor of my life, where I wasn't doing them every other week, and I was doing them every day, and I couldn't quit. I just couldn't quit. And in regards to where Courage of Change comes from, one of the biggest crossroads or spiritual awakenings that I had looking back is, there are times before that I started realizing a few years before I actually asked for help that I might have a problem. In fact, the guy I was dating, used to call me a baby addict, and he had to go to some court ordered thing for alcohol or whatever, and I asked him if I could go along because I had a problem and I wanted to learn about it. And so we would go, and then we'd go get wasted afterwards. And so that happened for a couple of years, and then I would be like, I looked in the yellow pages and I'm like, okay, cocaine's my problem. So I found CA and I went to CA, and then after CA I would go get high, and this lasted for a very long time, so I knew I had a problem. The crossroads for me was when I came home. I don't know, it must have been right after school, 5, I don't know. I was already high. Once I got home, I took a bunch of Ativan so I could come down from the coke. And, my son was watching TV and I smoked out in the garage, and I'm smoking a cigarette and I'm sitting there and I'm fighting with this guy that I'm dating because he's cheating on me, and I'm going crazy. I'm bipolar, I'm going manic. And I hang up on him and I'm sitting there. Hi, Heidi. I'm sitting there and I'm crying, and I'm thinking to myself, I can remember it. This is a spiritual awakening. I can remember, do I really want my life to go down this road? My parents were already talking about taking my son away. I was getting close to being fired, and I said, do I really want to be this person, this crazy, out of control, cannot go a day without using drugs person? And I called my brother and I said, I need some help. And he came over, and I don't remember much, carried me to the hospital. I went through rehab. And when I went, I really still had the impression that I could find a way to successfully use, but I could work on myself and love myself and be happy. And then, I could be a social user. I really thought that. I didn't think I was going to rehab to never not do drugs again. I just was in so much pain that I wanted to die. And so I went to rehab, and, I was real super excited about it. My parents told me I had to go to meetings, and I was going to CA, and I just really wasn't finding a home there. And I hooked up with someone in rehab, of course, who told me about CAG. And so I came to CAG, and I did find my home with Narcotics Anonymous, and thank God. So there was my first courage to change. And really, looking back at it, I never had, my willpower didn't get me into these rooms. It was the God of my understanding, my higher power. Everything that I have today, I attribute to God, and to really following God's will, not mine. When I utilize my will, things go crazy. I get manic. I can't communicate. I yell at my loved ones. And so for me, the simple message of recovery is God. You have to be connected to God. So, that was one of my spiritual awakenings. The other spiritual awakening for me was early in recovery. I kept going back out, and it got worse, of course, because once you get the message of recovery and you go back out, it's like, fuck it, I'm just going to be really bad. And I did some awful things during that 6 months of going back and in. Now, I kept coming back in because people, you guys are just like me, and you were staying clean, and I needed to hang around people just like me, and you kept telling me to come back, and I did. I had nowhere else to go once the drugs went out of my body. So I kept coming back, and my sponsor, I would call her and tell her I was going to get high, of course, and it was awful for her. And I called her one day. I was afraid that she was going to fire me, and I really needed her. And she said, Jennifer, I'm not going to fire you. She goes, but you got to understand that every time you go out, you hurt me, and I have to distance myself a little bit. And that was a spiritual awakening for me. I was outside of, it was Osco Drug at the time on 75th and Metcalf, sitting there crying and begging her and telling her I would never do it again. And that moment, I believe, is when I first started staying clean. Because I needed her in this program more than I needed my drugs at that time, and thank God. And so I started working the steps. And, my first year, you guys, I did all 12 steps. I just did. And I'm glad I did, because it kept me clean. I would go into my now home group Women's Recovery and angry and mean, and of course I didn't like women, and I acted out, and God, I loved chaos. And another spiritual awakening for me was I was sitting in the Women's Recovery Network, and Haywood was sitting across from me, and I'm sure Sarah was there and Heidi was there. I don't know who was there, but I can tell you this. I'm sitting there and I'm happy for the first time, and I'm actually sharing spiritually. I'm not verbally vomiting my horrible existence of life. And Haywood, she puts up this sign. She goes, "Where is Jennifer? What did you do with her?" And that was a spiritual awakening for me. And that, that was a time of change for me. These are all times where I took action by working the steps or sharing with my sponsor or calling people in my network and praying and doing what I was supposed to do. And that's where it got me to these spiritual awakenings. Another spiritual awakening for me was when I was at No Excuses. I just got done with my 4th step and shared my 5th step with my sponsor, and I was feeling that small. I didn't think it was really going to affect me, but I had no self-esteem whatsoever. And I shared it openly and honestly in that meeting. And everybody shared with me honestly about how they've had issues with self-esteem and how beautiful I was and how they loved me. And I'll never forget that moment. It was a turning point truly in my program. And those are moments that kept me clean. So how I got there, I mean, truly, I'm a stubborn person, so this program can be extremely hard for me. I don't know if anyone else is stubborn out there, but I am. And, I've had to learn the hard way with a lot of things. This program has been hard. It's simple, but it's hard because I get in the way. My will gets in the way. And so what I've learned is my God has always been there for me. My God showed me Narcotics Anonymous. My God gave me those crossroads. My God gave me those spiritual awakenings. My God gave you guys. This is a program. I can't do it by myself. And as long as I pray to my God and I ask for his will, not mine, and I think from my heart, not my head, good things happen. And, I'm a miracle today. And I know that if I can stay clean, anybody can stay clean. Yeah, I was a fool when I walked in these doors. I like chaos. I hung around people that weren't very healthy for me. I was loud and I'm still a little loud, loud and obnoxious. And today I'm a bit kinder, and I don't run as much from my friends anymore, and I've let a few people in. I mean, a lot of you still don't know me very well. I still am guarded somewhat, and that will probably take a while, but I'm open for any type of change. Now, one thing that I'll say about change is it all, for me, stems from fear. I mean, anger, all my character defects, being judgmental. God, I have so many character defects. I could go on forever. But all my character defects, I have realized through working the steps, that's the key to this program, is fear. And I have to walk through that fear in order to change. And I've done a lot of walking through, and I'm happy today that I have 4.5 years and I can stand up here and talk clean. I don't want to be a newcomer again. I don't. And I just want newcomers to know that, you can have a good life. You can, but you have to walk through the fear and you have to take the action. The suggestions of working the 12 steps, I'm on my 3rd round of working my steps, and they still help me immensely. I'm a little slower at working the steps today. I don't work them as diligently as I did, but I do work them. And I work on different things. I still have addictions that I have to work with. Smoking's one addiction that I still have issues with. Other issues that I have to deal with on a constant basis are communication. I am bipolar, I am manic, and I don't communicate very well. And I don't use it as an excuse, but I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to mend my relationship, especially with my son who's 16. My son I didn't think that he was going to try drugs. His dad's an alcoholic. I'm an addict. We've been in recovery for about the same time. And I just thought that he was so down on us. This is just crazy that I'm thinking this, that he wasn't going to try it. But, he didn't even go to alcohol. He went right to pot, smoking it by the Perry Village police station. I mean, Jesus Christ. I really... The son that told me he would never be stupid like his parents. And, so today I'm clean and I can deal with that today and I can guide him. Now, I don't know where Tyler's going to land. Me and his dad have contributed to a lot of what's going on with him, and I can feel guilty about it, or I can try to be a good mother today. And that's what I'm trying to be. I can set guidelines and boundaries and let him know that it's not all right, and seek the professional help that he needs in order to make wiser decisions. And I have to try to stay in the present. That's another big thing. I start thinking of the future. I already got him down as a big druggie, living on the street, selling dope. I mean, I have to stay in the present. If I don't stay in the present, then I get fear-paced. If I start thinking about the past, I get all depressed. I lay in my bed and I watch Lifetime all day. If I start thinking about the future, I go manic. I go crazy. I have to stay in the present. And how I do that is by praying. So, it's a little bit about my story. It's a little bit about where my courage has come from. It's come from this program. And I wish everybody could get this program, because just the people that I know in it and the blessings that it's giving me, I have a great life. I might moan and bitch and complain every once in a while, but I'm telling you guys, I have, shut up, Bill. I do. I got a great life. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm going to leave on a note of reading something else from Just for Today, because I always think Just for Today. This has been my savior. When I need a little quick fix or I can't do my steps, I read this every day. And then I am going to let the next speaker speak. But here we go. All right. Our newly found faith serves as a firm foundation for courage in the future. Narcotics Anonymous is no place for the faint of heart. Facing life on life's terms without the use of drugs isn't always easy. Recovery requires more than hard work. It requires a liberal dose of courage. What is courage anyway? A quick look at a dictionary will tell us we have courage when we face and deal with anything that we think of as difficult, dangerous, painful, rather than withdrawing from it. Courage means being brave, having a purpose, having spirit. So what is courage really? Courage is an attitude, one of perseverance. That's what an addict in recovery really needs, perseverance. We make that commitment to stick with their program, to avoid using no matter what happens. And courageous addict is one who doesn't use, one day at a time, no matter what. And what gives us courage? A relationship with our higher power. It gives us the strength and the courage to stay clean. We know that so long as we are in our God's care, we will have the power we need to face life on its own terms. Just for today, I have a higher power who cares for me no matter what, knowing that I will strive to have an attitude of courage today. Thank you.